You are Locked On Lions Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Oh man, raise your hand if you are devastated, shocked, completely in awe of what we just witnessed. The Detroit Lions fall to the Washington Commanders, 45-31, the final in this one. Welcome into a Locked On Lions postcast. I am your host, Jake Riepma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma. And man, I'm shocked. I can't believe it. It was not supposed to be this way. This is not what the Detroit Lions 2024 season was supposed to end like. We're going to go over what happened, what went wrong tonight, turnovers. The defense was exploited. They were exposed. And the magical season is over. And there's just no other way to put it. And it is such a tough pill to swallow. We'll take your comments as always. My good buddy RJ Choppy from 105.3 The Fan is going to join me later in the program and try to make sense of what we just witnessed. And Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders are moving on. Thanks as always for making the Locked On Lions postcast your post-game destination all season long. And even though the season ends with heartbreak, we thank you for making this your post-game destination. As always, free and available wherever you get your podcasts and, of course, on YouTube. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day. This episode is made possible by PrizePicks. That's right. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play your $5. And it might be a little bit different of a show tonight because, man, I am shocked. I keep using that word. And as Lions fans, year after year after year, we experienced heartbreak last year, but this is so different. And this is different than any other heartbreak I've experienced with this Detroit Lions team because the expectations were so different. The number one seed, the first round bye, home field advantage. Everything on paper pointed to this being the game you go out and dominate. The rushing attack that the Lions have had all season against one of the worst rushing defenses. The two best coordinators that everybody else wants, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson. And I know there's going to be people that say they were taking too many interviews all week and not paying attention and not putting the time into the game plan. I don't subscribe to that. I'll nip that in the bud right away. But, man, the Lions defense gets exposed. Ben Johnson, for all the trick plays and all of the razzle-dazzle, when the game was still in the balance, it was a trick play that was the undoing of the Detroit Lions with Jameson Williams throwing an interception on a reverse pass. And a lot of them worked, don't get me wrong. But, wow. This is going to be tough. And I already see trolls in the comments. If it's going to be one of those nights that we're not going to take comments, and unfortunately the trolls ruin it for everybody. But this is what instant reaction shows are all about, because you just can't replicate the shock and the utter heartbreak and disappointment that you feel in the immediate aftermath at any other time. And I'll give you the game breakdown. It was the 3 turnovers in the first half, 5 for the game in total, if you count that last interception when the game was pretty much deservingly so to end it like that, fitting. And you just couldn't stop Jayden Daniels. And the 4th down that the Commanders got, you had Terry Arnold's eyes in the backfield. If he's honed in on Jayden Daniels, I think he makes that stop. But, man, 45 points at home, 5 turnovers. The recipe for losing is what we just saw. And I listen, everybody's entitled to their own reaction, their own opinion. And I already see all the trolls in the comments again. So I'm going to just ignore the comments, at least for the foreseeable futures. I don't have a producer with me. I don't have anybody reading the comments and filtering out the trolls versus the people actually trying to contribute. But the the NFL is such a quarterback-driven league, and Jared Goff didn't play well tonight. And it was a complete and total flop from the offensive side of things with Jared Goff. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs was incredible, insane. I had people with me in my Dallas station here at 105.3 The Fan texting me, how is Jahmyr Gibbs this good? Did he grade out this good on the film coming out of Alabama? But you can't turn the ball over. And the recipe for Washington to come in and win was to get some momentum early, get your guys believing, long sustained drives. And that's exactly what they did. And as a result, you've got the Lions pressing. You've got Ben Johnson in his bag when it works, or when it doesn't work, it's pressing and calling trick plays that ultimately lead to the Lions' demise. So unfortunately, such is life as a Detroit Lions fan. 15-2 regular season, the most memorable regular season we've ever had, compiled with the most devastating heartbreak I felt in a while, because it's such a different heartbreak. It's not, there's always next year. And we're going to talk about that at the end of what's next. What happens to Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson? I firmly believe they're both going to be head coaches, and that's not really going out on a limb. Everybody believes that. So want to touch in on a couple of real ones that have been with us all season. Daniel Berry Sports highlights. I know he has What an Upset. Aiden Runner, completely brawler. That was like getting railed by a Chester. Okay. You got a lot of people that want to get in on the comments. And yeah, the pick six, I did want to mention that because Goff got absolutely depleted, and that touchdown should have been wiped off the board. And there's no way to hypothetically tell what would have happened if that pick six is called back on a penalty with the helmet to helmet blindside block on a defenseless player. But that's not the reason the Lions lost this game. And that second half, the 11-play drive, you get back into the game, but the defense just couldn't make the stops. We're going to go over some of the game by game stuff with my good buddy RJ Choppy from the morning show here at 105.3 The Fan, because he was a Lions believer just like me all season long. But the way that third quarter started, you get Washington to punt right back to the Lions, 11-play, 91-yard drive to make it 31-28. And that's when, you know what, hit the fan, because the Commanders go on a 15-play, 70-yard drive to make it 38-28. Then the interception from J-Mo on the trick play, resulting in another Washington touchdown. That puts them up 45-28. And at that point, it is curtains. You get the field goal trying to make it a two-possession game. But, man, complete and total heartbreaking devastation. And I'm struggling to find the words, and I apologize. I'm not articulating very well, because that's the complete shock that I am in. But we're going to take a quick break. RJ Choppy will join us on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. This live Locked On Lions postcast just getting started here on Locked On Sports Detroit. All right, all season long, I've been telling you all about PrizePicks. That's right, it's the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, and it gets even better in the playoffs. That's right, it's playoff time. If you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. And as Lions fans, we don't have anything else to watch, so we might as well get in on the action on PrizePicks, because we can't cheer for our team. That's where PrizePicks comes in. If you love football, you want a chance to win real money while watching the games, PrizePicks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash without the daily fantasy player projections. That's right, you just pick more or less on a player stat projection, and voila, you watch the winnings roll on in. Although, don't listen to me, I had Goff more with his touchdown passes. I should have picked more on the interceptions the way he played tonight. But I'll give you some prize picks later on some other Locked On Sports Detroit episodes, maybe after a Pistons game or something. So I've got nothing for you right now because I'm down in the dumps. But don't forget our special code, Locked On NFL, for our listeners. Download the app today. Use code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks. Run your game. Download the app today. Use code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. And now we bring on the legendary RJ Choppy from 105.3 The Fan Morning Show. And RJ, you got to help me out because I'm in complete shock. I did not anticipate this happening at all. I don't know what else to say other than I am devastated. I am heartbroken. Help me make sense of what just transpired.
There is no making sense of it. It's the NFL, man. This is what it is, right? It's as Brian Broaddus on The Fan says, it's a strange lady. The NFL's a strange lady. And she is, dude. Like, it was, what are you going to do? Like, you go through the entire year and you're, without question, the best team in the NFL for 17, 18 weeks. Nobody even doubts it, right? Like, the Lions have been the best team in the National Football League the entire year. But you were hurt. And as many turnovers as the offense had, they still put up over 30. When you put up over 30 points in a playoff game, you win that playoff game. Like 99 times out of 100, 30 points a game in a playoff, you win and you lose. It's a strange situation. It's a strange lady.
All season long, we've been saying the same thing. You know, with your power rankings every week, saying the Lions are the team to beat. And you know, I felt so good about this game when you look at some of just the real basics with Washington struggling to stop the run. It felt like at times Ben Johnson went away from, you know, the old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know, you never go broke taking a profit. They were getting 10 yards a pop on the ground and they went away with it.
Yeah, it did. I felt they should have run the ball more. Like Washington can't stop the run. The Lions do. You know, they run the ball better than anybody in the league. They should have run the ball basically all the time. You know, and then the other thing that happened is that, you know, Goff doesn't play great against the zone defense. Houston played a zone against him. They got him. Washington played a zone against him tonight. They got him.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way it is, right? I mean, styles make fights. It's not an indictment on Ben Johnson. It's not an indictment on Goff. It's not an indictment on the offensive line. It is what it is, right? Sometimes you don't match up with what they do well or what they're doing that day. And what they were doing tonight, you know, it didn't work with Goff. But they did lean on the pass more than they probably should have. There were 3 or 4 times in this game, you know, the interception at the end of the half. I mean, what you had 40 seconds left. You had a timeout left. Why are you not trying to run the football there instead of going for the touchdown? What are you doing? It didn't make a whole lot of sense. I didn't get that part, but look, it is what it is. They were playing catch up basically from the first fumble. From the fumble they had in the second drive where they were up 7-3 inside the 30. I mean, that was the football game right there.
Right. I kind of unfortunately outlined like my worst case scenario disaster situation of how Washington could win this game. And they went out and did exactly that. They forced some turnovers early. They had a lot of success on offense to exude confidence in the young quarterback, Jayden Daniels, who you have to give a ton of credit to because for as hostile of an environment Ford Field can be, it was silent in the second half because of how well Washington went out and executed. And they just did exactly what it took to win. And from kind of a national perspective here, Choppy, you can help me with this. Do you think it did with the way the defense played? Is Aaron Glenn still, and even Ben Johnson for that matter, they're still viable candidates as head coaches, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, Aaron Glenn had like 17 guys on IR. What's he going to do? Like, you are limited. Like, defensive coaches are limited anyway. A defensive coach is limited to what the offense on the other side of the field is going to do. They're limited. All right, I don't blame Aaron Glenn. Ben Johnson, I mean, look, Goff had let's just say, let's go back to the 7. It's a 7-3 football game. And it's a 3rd and 2. And instead of drop back to pass, they decided to run the football there.
They go empty. They go empty. And at that time, Jahmyr Gibbs was averaging 7.5 yards a carry.
Yeah. So you're inside the 30. You run the ball there on 3rd and 2. You get the first down. There's not a fumble. All right. It's at least 10-3. Okay. At the very least, it's 10-3. You're probably going to score a touchdown. There's your football game. If it goes to 14-3 the game's over. The Lions are in the NFC Championship game. It's Stafford going back. It's Hurts coming here. Whatever it is, right? That's your football game. So, I mean, there's a lot of you can nitpick on anything. There's like 5 or 6 plays you can nitpick on this game. That's the first one I would start and stop with. Is that decision to go and drop back to pass.
Yeah, I had that written down as well. Obviously, the missed call on the pick 6 with it being, Goff getting depleted. I said in the open, it doesn't necessarily change. That's not why they lost the game. But at that juncture of the game, you take a touchdown off the board and who knows what the heck happens. I also tweeted this out that if Patrick Mahomes is hit like that, the NFL is canceling the rest of the regular.
Yeah, they are.
It's just everything. Everybody stop. We're not playing football anymore.
They are. I was sitting there thinking like myself, let them score. Give you an extra 1:40 to go down the field. And unfortunately, threw a pick in the end zone. Yeah.
But to your point, it just goes to show they were pressing. They were pressing throughout the entire, even after that very first fumble, which makes it really, really tough. But help me cope in this way, Choppy. If what's next starts to become the conversation for the Detroit Lions, and a formidable roster, sure, but the future is so uncertain when you inevitably lose your 2 coordinators. But has Dan Campbell built enough of a culture where this Lions team can get right back? I mean, we were in the same conversation last year. Lions fans is, we'll be back, and you do it in the regular season, but the NFL is a strange lady in the postseason.
It is. Are you convinced Ben Johnson's going to take a job? I'm not. I mean, he didn't take one last year. He didn't take one the year before. Aaron Glenn's probably gone. I think Aaron Glenn's going to get a job. I'm not convinced Ben Johnson's getting a job. If he does, I think the Lions are still okay. They've got a great staff. They've got a great set of personnel. I think the quarterback, the running backs, the receivers, they can work with any coordinator. I think it'll be okay. Ben Johnson's great, but he has guys working underneath him that have kind of figured out what he's doing. They'll be all right. They're still going to be a really good team next year, regardless of what happens. They might not be 15-2, but it might not matter. Would you have rather have been 15-2 and lose in this round, or have played last week and continue to win? Either way, I mean, Washington obviously had a little bit of momentum coming into this game.
Right. And that kind of, I was talking with Will Chambers on the Fan today about this, is almost like we saw in the college football playoff, where all of a sudden these teams that have a bye week, the teams that are hot and get to play, come out and punch them in the mouth and ultimately end up winning.
It happened with Oregon. I mean, it happened in college football. So, yeah, I mean, look, it happens in a lot of sports where the teams with the bye, we see this in baseball every year. The team with the bye, I think we've seen like 3 in 3 years that have moved on. The teams with the bye don't win, and that's just the way it is. And in football, in the NFL, now it's only one team with a bye. It's the best team every year. Kansas City had it. Patrick Mahomes gets every call. Detroit had it. It didn't work. It happens, right? It doesn't mean that the season's a failure. It's the NFL, man. Like, the NFL happens. It's like these games, the margins are so thin in this league. Yep. You have 1 turnover, 2 turnovers, let alone 5. You're cooked.
Yep, exactly. And really, and you can speak to this too. It just occurred to me, the NFC North, for as much as we talked about how daunting that division is, tough showing in the postseason between Packers, Vikings, and now Lions.
It is. That's not an indictment on the division. It's just the way it is, right? I mean, it's happenstance. And the Rams are a good team. The Rams were the one team that I didn't want to see if I was a playoff team in the postseason. I didn't want to see the Rams. But I mean, the Lions were great all year. The problem with the Lions is, and everyone saw this coming. Everyone who has watched the Lions past about week 7 saw this coming. They saw the injuries on the defense. Right. When you score 31 points, you win that football game in the postseason.
Right. 31 points with 5 turnovers is just crazy to say out loud. And I've already seen on Lions Twitter, everybody turning on Goff, and it it's very predictable behavior from the Lions fan base and everybody. And I mean, they were breaking down. Dan Campbell had to move last year because of these ridiculous fans, and you can't control a fan base, but everything I'm seeing already is very predictable. But I'll try not to pay too much attention to that. Choppy, I had different visions of what your first time on the Locked On Sports Detroit YouTube page would look like, but I appreciate you hopping on, man.
I'm here for you, brother. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that, man. I'll see you Monday. There he goes. RJ Choppy joining me from 105.3 The Fan, the morning show there. Does a tremendous job with Sean and RJ. And all season long, he's been my boy in my corner. When the other guys, try to downplay Detroit, RJ's had my back. He plays a lot of golf in Michigan. One of the things we bonded over. But, man, appreciate him hopping on. That was awesome. And the result of tonight was not awesome, no. Lions fall to the Commanders 45-31, and that is it. That's the end of the season. So we'll take one more break, and we will wrap it up for a season on Locked On Lions postcast. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back on the Locked On Sports Detroit. This episode of the Locked On Lions postcast is brought to you by TurboTax. That's right, TurboTax. Listen up. This is a message for everybody. Taxes used to be waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting some more and wondering some more. Now, taxes. It's all about matching with TurboTax, a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, and everything with 100% accuracy. All you can do then is get the most money back guaranteed, and that's what you're looking for. There's no waiting, no wondering, no worries. This is what taxes are now. So get an expert now on TurboTax.com. It's only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. All right, we'll get out the door on this. Appreciate everybody tuning in. A little bit different of a show tonight with the finality of the season coming to an end, with it being an abrupt end, an unexpected end. But as always, appreciate everybody tuning in. And Locked On Sports Detroit will continue on with our post-game coverage now. It'll just be Locked On Pistons postcasts and pitchers and catchers report in about a month. So we have that to look forward to. Oh, but that being said, my thanks to RJ Choppy for hopping on and also for providing some analysis on what we saw here, because it's very emotional for me. That's why I'm doing my best here to power through. But Lions fans, I want to get this off my chest that I don't, and everybody's entitled to their own way of looking at it or thinking, but my goodness, I don't want to, I've already seen tweets and criticizing. Tonight was not good. You can criticize the 12 men on the field. I should have gotten to that sooner. That was biggest play of the season, and you had 12 men on the field. You can't have that. And that was disappointing. You can criticize the interceptions from Goff, the play calling, the trick play. You can't put the ball in Jameson Williams' hand to throw a pass if there's the chance of it going wrong, like there was. There's a lot of blame to go around, but my hope is, and I'm confident Dan Campbell and company have built a strong enough culture to be able to respond to this and to bounce back from this and to use this as fuel going into the offseason. I don't know how. I know we had the same conversation after last year's heartbreak, and after heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak, it's difficult to continue to, build the scar tissue, but what other choice do you have? And I get it. The Lions fans were talking and I was talking. I was confident I picked the Lions to win and cover in this one. They didn't. And now everybody is in the comments letting me know. So I guess sometimes you wear egg on your face and you get dealt a slice of humble pie in this business, but you take 15-2 in a first round bye to set yourself up for success 10 times out of 10. But man, everybody had visions of it going differently tonight. There is no doubt about it. As far as things to be excited about for next year, Jahmyr Gibbs in that offense and Jared Goff, Amon-Ra, J-Mo. I mean, that is as good of offense as anyone. And I said it. RJ Choppy said it. 31 points wins a lot of playoff games. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if we do the comparative to the other. I mean, 31 points would have won the Chiefs game today. 31 points. We'll see if 31 points would have wins the next couple of games too. 31 points when you had your C- game. And again, at this point, it's falling on deaf ears and not necessarily resonating, but man, nobody expected this to end this way. But we're Detroit. We are built on grit and the resiliency, the resolve, the perseverance. They'll be back. And until then, we've got more Locked On coverage, and appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight, one of our most watched broadcasts. But also make sure you subscribe if you're not. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do subscribe to Locked On Sports Detroit, because we've got post-game shows for you all season long, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We've got Locked On Pistons postcast, Locked On Tigers postcast, Locked On Lions postcast, and of course, Locked On Wolverines postcast when the football season comes back around. But until then, thanks so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to be on the air, and I appreciate the comments, and even if they are just everybody ridiculing, if that makes you feel better, fair enough. But a bummer for the Detroit Lions, who fall to the Washington Commanders 45-31. Got to give a lot of credit to Jayden Daniels in that Washington Commanders offense, because man, 45 points in a playoff game is impressive. But make sure you tune in to Locked On Lions with Matt Derry all week long as he breaks this one down. And as always, thanks for making the Locked On Lions postcast your post-game destination. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, all parts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma. And we will see you next time on Locked On Sports Detroit.